Due to copyright, I can't publish many audiobooks on YouTube. At our audiobook novel service, we offer access to over 300 full novels from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, Wuxia, and more, all in high-quality audio format. Each novel is available with a one-time payment only. No subscriptions, no monthly payment, and no ads. Payments via PayPal or Ko-fi. To browse the full list of available novels, message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out our full catalog on Discord. Chapter 61. The Creatures Inside the Cave. It didn't take long for Arthur to check the situation inside the cave, and his expression was rather peculiar. "My lord, there's nothing dangerous inside the cave, but we have a little problem," Arthur muttered with a troubled look. Hearing this, Alaric raised an eyebrow. "What did you see in there?" "I think it would be better for you to see it yourself, my lord." Alaric furrowed his eyebrows. Just what did he see in there for him to be so hesitant to speak of it? "All right." Alaric gave a hand signal to the remaining warriors as he urged his horse to move towards the cave. Although Arthur said that the cave was safe, Alaric didn't let down his guard. His dominant hand was resting on the hilt of his sword. Upon reaching the mouth of the cave, Alaric smelled the distinct scent of animal urine. It was faint, but it didn't escape his enhanced sense of smell. A territorial mark? Most wild animals and monsters mark their territories by spraying their urine on specific areas. This was to delineate the boundaries of their territory and to communicate their presence to other creatures. "Hold on tight, Ivana," Alaric whispered. The elf reacted to his words by tightening her grip on his waist. "Please excuse my rudeness," Alaric muttered as he grabbed her legs. The elf jolted in shock at the unexpected touch. Before she could say anything, he slowly lifted her and delicately got down the horse to make sure that he was careful enough not to aggravate her wounds. "Ah, so he just did it to bring me down from the horse. You can release me now, Ivana." Alaric's voice resonated in her ears. "Ah, yes." The elf loosened her grip with a flustered look. Alaric removed the rope he had tied earlier and turned to look at her. "Can you walk on your own?" Although he couldn't see her complexion right now because of the mud that he had smeared on her face, he could tell that her face looked paler at this moment. Ivana didn't dare look at him. "Why, yes, it should be fine." Alaric knew that she was just acting tough, but he didn't expose her. "You don't need to push yourself. Just hold on to me if you feel like you're about to collapse." Elves are truly prideful. It must have been a really difficult decision for her to trust a human that she just met. "Amen," she hummed in response. Alaric was in no hurry to check what was inside the cave. He walked slowly to match the elf's pace. The warriors were aware of her condition, so they also considerately slowed down their pace. As soon as they entered the cave, the smell of ammonia became thicker. Even the normal warriors were able to detect the scent. It was then that the distinct cries of an animal drifted into their ears. But it didn't end there. They heard more sounds which made them realize that there wasn't just one creature. The sound, "It's a cub, and there's more than one." Alaric finally understood the meaning behind Arthur's words. The former mercenary, Rigger, approached and whispered to his ears. "My lord, there are cubs inside this cave. I think this is a dwelling of a monster or a wild animal. It might get troublesome if the parents of the cubs are nearby. Let's take a look at what kind of creature they are first before making a decision. Finding another cave in this kind of weather would be troublesome. Arthur must have thought of this as well, so he left the final decision to me." "All right," Rigger nodded. A moment later, the group finally arrived at the den where the cubs were hidden.
Saber fanged wolves.
Alaric's eyes widened upon seeing the white cubs rolling over their den. These creatures usually lived in the cold regions of the north, and the one feature that stood out from them was their fangs that looked like sharpened sabers. From birth, they were already classified as fatal grade because of their high affinity with mana. When they reach adulthood, they start to develop the ability to manipulate ice, making them even more fearsome monsters. Ordinary knights would be helpless against them. Even elite knights would have to group up when they meet an adult saber-fanged wolf. That was also the reason why they were classified as disaster-grade monsters upon reaching maturity. "Alaric, we need to get out of this place as quickly as possible," Charles couldn't stay still anymore when he identified the wolf cubs. The warriors were similarly nervous, but they patiently waited for Alaric to make the final decision. "Hold on, uncle." Alaric raised his hand, indicating for him to wait. He beckoned to Henry and told the old man to watch over Ivana. "Please keep an eye on her for me, Sir Henry." The old man nodded. "Yes, my lord." Alaric approached the wolf cubs while observing them. They look thin and almost malnourished. Their fur is also very dirty. From these small details, Alaric was 60% certain that their parents must have left for a while, but this made him confused. From his knowledge, saber-fanged wolves were very caring towards their cubs, and they didn't leave them alone for a long time. Based on this, he came up with a possibility. Their parents must have died outside or probably had an accident. Thinking about this, Alaric took out a meat jerky from his leather pouch. The smell of the jerky made the cubs turn in his direction. Although slightly wary of the stranger, they still approached him because of the smell of food. As if to show their excitement, the cubs raised their tiny heads and howled. "Awoo! Awoo!" Their cute howling sounds echoed within the cave, giving the warriors quite the scare. Charles in particular had an ashen look. If it weren't for the presence of the other warriors, he would have already left the cave. Chapter 62. An Unexpected Discovery. Alaric continued feeding the wolf cubs with the jerky. They are already big enough to eat meat, so they're probably around a month old. "Bring me some water and a few bowls," Alaric calmly instructed. Hearing his words, the warriors quickly brought him the things he asked. Alaric took the gourd and poured water into the bowls. He then stood up and told everyone about what he had observed. They looked visibly relieved, but some were still skeptical. After all, there was a chance that he could be wrong. Charles was starting to get impatient, but he decided to wait and see the situation. "If something happens, I will prioritize my safety." Suddenly, Charles's eyes brightened as he thought about something. "Now that I think about it, isn't this the perfect opportunity to get rid of him? If the cubs' parents were to return, a fight would definitely break out. A knight won't survive against a pair of furious disaster-grade monsters." Charles snickered in his mind. "What should we do with these cubs, my lord?" Henry asked in a low voice. Alaric thought for a moment as he looked at the small, fluffy little creatures. "If we take them with us, I'm positive that the cubs will attract unwanted attention. We might even be targeted by some opportunists, but it would be a pity to leave them here." After a full minute of internal struggle, Alaric opened his mouth. "We will bring the cubs with us." Henry didn't seem to be surprised by his response, and it even looked like he had already expected this answer from him. "It seems like you have already guessed my thoughts, Sir Henry," Alaric muttered with a wry smile. "To some extent, yes." The old man laughed. Over an hour later, the two teams he had sent to investigate the area finally returned. Aldrin and Chulmo immediately reported their findings. "My lord, we found no threat nearby, but there's something unusual." It was Aldrin who had spoken. "Did you find a monster corpse?" Alaric muttered. Chulmo and Aldrin were shocked. How did you know, my lord?" Alaric rubbed his chin. "Is it the corpse of a saber-fanged wolf?" Both knights stared at him in disbelief. "How? Is there only one corpse?" "Why, yes, my lord. And it's already in a bad state. It has probably been dead for a couple of days. But we found this from the corpse." Chulmo took out a blue crystal and handed it to Alaric. "A beast soul crystal, and it's at the disaster grade." Alaric was stunned when he sensed the powerful mana contained within the crystal. It was even denser than the beast soul crystal from the goblin chieftain. "That's a beast soul crystal." Greed flashed in Charles's eyes when he saw the blue crystal in Alaric's hand. From the mana he sensed from it, he had a strong feeling that it could help him advance and become a transcendent knight. As if sensing his unusual gaze, Alaric turned his head. Charles smiled at him and even gave him a friendly nod, to which Alaric responded with an indifferent nod of his own. "It seems like my uncle is interested in this beast soul crystal. Unfortunately, I will never give this to you, dumbass." Alaric pulled his gaze away from Charles and stowed the beast soul crystal inside his leather pouch. You two did a great job finding this. I will reward you handsomely once we return to the estate. Alaric tapped Chulmo's and Aldrin's shoulder. The two knights looked visibly excited upon hearing his words. All right, go and discuss amongst yourselves on who will perform the night watch. Alaric waved his hand. Keep your eyes peeled and immediately alert everyone if you sense any signs of danger. He warned them. Yes, my lord. The two knights acknowledged his command with a salute. You may go. He dismissed them. As soon as they left, he noticed someone approaching him. When he saw who it was, his lips curved upwards. My dear nephew, can you show me the thing that you got from the knights? Charles rubbed his hand with an overly friendly smile. Alaric was peeved by his pretentious smile, but he didn't show it to his face. Oh, are you talking about the beast soul crystal? Charles eagerly nodded. Yes, the beast soul crystal. Haha, can you let me have a look? Of course. Alaric took out the beast soul crystal from the leather pouch and handed it to Charles. Here. Charles almost had the urge to absorb it when the crystal touched his palm, but he held back his desire. Now I'm certain. This thing can help me break through. Ha ha ha. Now, how should I get my beloved nephew to give it to me? It looks really beautiful. I would love to put this on my mansion as a decoration. Charles stared deeply at Alaric while maintaining his cordial smile. Ha ha ha. That's a good idea, uncle. Alaric quickly snatched the beast soul crystal from his hand. Maybe I should put this in my room as a decoration. He chuckled while playing with the crystal. Charles's smile stiffened. He felt a strong urge to punch his face. Let's chat later, uncle. I still have something to do. Please excuse me. Alaric brushed past him and walked away without waiting for his response. The veins on Charles's face protruded. His face darkened as he stared at Alaric's back. Meanwhile, Alaric was gleefully laughing. Without even turning his head, he could already tell that his uncle was glaring at him. My lord, you look happy. Did something good happen? Henry asked when he saw Alaric laughing. Yes. Chulmo and Aldrin found a beast soul crystal. Alaric explained the situation. Oh wow! Henry didn't expect this, but his expression suddenly turned serious. Since they only found one corpse, this means that one of the cubs' parents is still alive. The old man muttered. Alaric's face also turned serious. That's right. Chapter 63. Garrison Captain Jared Paxley. Night came, engulfing the world in darkness. The possibility of there being a disaster-grade monster close by made everyone feel restless. To ease everyone's worries, Warwick volunteered to stay awake. However, some warriors were still unable to fall asleep. Meanwhile, in one quiet corner, Alaric was reapplying the medicine paste on Ivana's wounds. To prevent anyone from seeing her appearance, he asked Henry, Aldrin, and Rigger to block everyone's view. In his past life, these three remained loyal to him even until his death, so he could rest assured that they wouldn't speak a word even if they discovered Ivana's identity. That should do it. When your body feels better, you can do this by yourself. Although Alaric had the soul of a middle-aged man, he still found it hard to control himself when facing an elf with unparalleled beauty. She had the kind of beauty that would invoke someone's desire to conquer. Too much beauty isn't a blessing, but a curse. Ivana stared at him and nodded her head. She was now less wary of him. The only thing that stopped her from fully believing in him was the stigma of being a human. Only a night had passed by, but everyone felt like it was an eternity. The next morning, the group quickly left the cave and headed straight to Ryvad. They also took wolf cubs with them. To hide the cubs' distinctive white fur, Alaric asked the warriors to rub their furs with ashes to make them look like they were normal wolf cubs. 6 saber-fanged wolf cubs. The trip this time is already worth it, Henry exclaimed as he looked at the cubs that were temporarily put inside a big wooden cage. The cubs were surprisingly docile after being fed by Alaric. They didn't even protest when they were taken inside the wooden cage. With their strength, they could have destroyed the wooden cage and escaped. But it seemed like they had chosen to follow the person who had given them food. Remember to warn the warriors not to tell anyone about the cubs. We can't let this information leak out or we might face trouble. Alaric reminded the old elite knight. Yes, my lord. I'll make sure that no one would speak of it. Henry nodded with a grim look. At this moment, Charles was gnashing his teeth in jealousy over his nephew's blessed luck. Damn it! He got a disaster-grade beast soul crystal and even snagged 6 saber-fanged wolf cubs. He couldn't accept it. He was supposed to take them all if Alaric wasn't there. My dear nephew, I hope you won't blame your uncle for what I'm about to do soon. While Charles was brewing a dark plan, the group finally arrived at the entrance of Rivad. Due to the heavy snowfall, the city's gate looked deserted. Only the garrison guards could be seen, loitering around with bored faces. At the sight of Alaric's group, the guards went on full alert. Stop! What's your objective for coming here? One of the guards raised his hand, indicating for them to stop. The guard looked visibly nervous from how his arm was shaking. His comrades were similarly shaken and some of them even grabbed the handle of their weapons. I am Alaric Silversword, the sole heir of House Silversword. Alaric took out an identity token, the insignia of House Silversword. This should be enough to prove my identity. The guards furrowed their eyebrows as they stared intently at the insignia. Just then, a team of 10 guards led by a middle-aged man stepped out of the city and approached them with serious faces. Seeing this person, the guards relaxed. Captain! They greeted the middle-aged man with a respectful salute. I'll take it from here. You guys stand back. The middle-aged man commanded with a stern look. Hearing his words, the guards immediately retreated and stood behind him. The middle-aged man turned his head to Alaric and cupped his fists. I apologize for my subordinate's rudeness, my lord. I am Jared Paxley, the garrison captain of Rivad's main gate. Alaric already knew his identity from the start, but he acted like it was the first time he had seen him. So it's Garrison Captain Jared. It's an honor to meet you. Alaric cupped his fists. This man was the cousin of Nathan Paxley and his standing in House Paxley was quite impressive. The honor is mine, my lord. I've heard of the genius dual sword wielder from North Pine Town. You look really amazing in person. Ha. The tense atmosphere broke with the friendly interaction between the two. By the way, my lord, can you tell me why you have returned to Rivad after only leaving just a few days ago? Jared asked. Alaric was already prepared to answer this. We have a business to discuss with House Paxley, but I can't say it here, Garrison Captain Jared. He gave him an apologetic look. Jared was silent for a moment. House Silversword had always been the staunchest ally of House Paxley. He even heard his cousin, Nathan Paxley, say that he was planning to marry his daughter to the heir of House Silversword. Is this about the marriage? He thought. I understand, my lord, but I hope that you will allow my men to inspect your things just for formality. Jared took a step back. This was the best he could do for the heir of House Silversword. That won't be a problem. Please proceed with the inspection, Garrison Captain Jared. Alaric smiled at him, feeling thankful for his consideration. Thank you for your trust, my lord. Jared cupped his fists. He then turned around and gave a signal to his men. After seeing his signal, the garrison guards immediately began their inspection. Since it has been proven that they were from House Silversword, the garrison guards didn't actively inspect their possessions. They only did a simple check. Jared also joined the inspection and the thing that drew his attention were the wolf cubs. Chapter 64. Furious Baron Nathan. Wolf cubs? Jared was curious, but he didn't ask anything about the cubs. Thank you for cooperating with our inspection, my lord. You can now enter the city. Jared smiled at Alaric. I appreciate your efforts in keeping the city safe, Garrison Captain. May you be blessed by Aru. Alaric cupped his fists. After bidding farewell to the garrison captain, Alaric's group headed inside the city. Despite the freezing weather, there were still some small business owners selling their goods on the streets. The group traveled for almost 2 hours before they arrived at the estate of House Paxley. Although surprised by their unexpected visit, the guards brought them in. They had seen Alaric before, so no one questioned his identity this time. Meanwhile, Nathan Paxley had also received a report regarding their arrival. Did they forget something? The Baron muttered, feeling a bit confused by their return. The Baron didn't bother to change his clothes. He just wore a coat over his tunics before he stepped out of his study. When he got down to the entrance hall, he saw his wife, Vivian Harrison, and his daughter Hershey Paxley, waiting for him by the door. Nathan frowned and looked around, searching for his two sons. "Where is Liam and Theo?" he asked. "They should be here soon," Vivian responded. She then walked to Nathan's side and adjusted his coat. Nathan was dissatisfied, but he didn't say anything. He might be a baron, but he was slightly afraid of Vivian's collateral family. This was also the main reason why he wanted to strengthen his alliance with House Silversword. Nathan noticed that his wife was showing suspicious behavior recently, and there were signs that she was secretly building her own force. A few minutes later, Theo and the laid-back Liam finally showed up. "What took you two so long?" Nathan glared at them. "I apologize, Father. I wanted to look good in front of Lord Alaric, so I took my time to choose the best outfit." "Hee." Liam responded with a chuckle. Theo stared at his younger brother and remained silent. Sensing his gaze, Liam winked at him. "You better not say anything foolish in front of our guests later." Nathan snorted as he stormed out of the mansion. Vivian and Hershey quickly followed him. "Please keep it a secret, Theo," Liam whispered with a playful smirk as he walked past his older brother. Theo stared at his carefree figure and shook his head. "I don't know how to stop you anymore, Liam. I can only pray that Aru won't punish you excessively for your wrongdoings." Before coming here, he saw something in his brother's room that left him deeply unsettled. Theo felt that the younger brother that he once knew was no longer the same. It was as if he wasn't Liam anymore, but an evil spirit. As soon as he stepped out of the mansion, he saw Alaric jumping off from his horse. Theo was a proud man. He felt like his talent was one of the best among the younger generation. However, in front of a true genius like Alaric, he felt utterly hopeless. When he saw how Alaric defeated Cassandra in a duel, he realized that there was a big gap between them. It was like an insurmountable chasm that he would be unable to overcome no matter how he worked hard. While he was immersed in his complicated thoughts, Alaric had already exchanged greetings with the Baron and his wife. "I didn't expect to see you again so soon, Lord Alaric." Nathan laughed heartily. Alaric shook hands with the Baron. It was unknown if it was deliberate, but his eyes hovered over Liam, which made the latter raise his eyebrows in surprise. "HM? Why is he looking at me? Why don't we head in for a chat, my lord? There is something I need to tell you." Alaric spoke in a flat tone. Looking at the serious expression on his face, Baron Nathan felt a sense of foreboding. "All right, but you can only bring a maximum of 4 people inside." Alaric nodded and chose 4 people to come with him, including his uncle. As much as he wanted to leave Charles out of this, he had no choice but to bring him since Charles was still his uncle. He temporarily left Ivana to Henry. He didn't bring her in because of her sensitive identity. As they entered the mansion, Charles shamelessly walked beside Nathan to chat with him. "Do you still remember me, my lord?" "Of course. How could I forget you, Lord Charles?" "Ha ha ha. I'm glad that you still remember me. Ha ha ha." While the two were chatting, Alaric deliberately slowed down so he could walk side by side with Hershey. "Hello, my lady," he whispered in a voice that only Hershey could hear. Hershey looked at him and smiled when she heard his voice. Of course, this interaction didn't escape Liam's sight. Nathan brought them to the guest hall since it was bigger than his study room. As soon as they took their seats, Baron Nathan cautiously inquired, "May I know why you have returned to Ryvad?" Alaric didn't waste any time and presented the document shared between Liam and the mercenary leader. "You will understand once you see this, my lord." Everyone curiously stared at the parchment paper he handed to the Baron, wondering what was written on it. On the other hand, Liam's eyebrows shot upwards when he saw the document. He was certain that it was the same document he had signed with the mercenary leader. Baron Nathan's face grew increasingly darker the more he read. The others also sensed the abrupt change in his mood. Upon reading the final line, Baron Nathan put down the parchment paper and looked at his son. Liam, what is the meaning of this? Anger was palpable in his voice.
Ashu?
What are you saying, my lord? I don't understand what's going on. Liam's face fell under everyone's doubtful eyes. Chapter 65. Liam's Lies. What do you mean you don't know? Stop playing innocent. Do you think I'm blind? Baron Nathan almost flipped the table in rage. Quell your anger, my lord. Can you tell us what happened first? Vivian didn't expect her husband to be this furious after reading a document. Nathan snorted and threw the parchment paper in her direction. Then you better take a look at what your son has done. Vivian grabbed the paper and nervously read the contents. When she realized what it was, she gasped in shock. Liam, how could you? Vivian's voice shook with disbelief. Theo took the paper from her hands and read it together with Hershey. This? The ashen-faced Liam immediately tried to explain himself. That's definitely a fabricated document. I would never do something like that. Please believe me. Are you saying that I'm lying? Alaric's cold voice echoed within the guest hall, making everyone feel a chill in their heart. A crooked smile hung on Liam's face as he defended himself. It's pretty clear to me that you are doing this to confuse my family. I can't believe you are actually this sinister, Alaric. He then turned his gaze towards the Baron and uttered emotionally, My lord, please investigate this matter deeply before accusing me of something I didn't do. Please believe in your son. Nathan hesitated. He was pretty sure that the document was real, but what if it was fabricated? The slight hesitation in his expression didn't escape Alaric's eyes. He let out a disappointed sigh while shaking his head. I knew something like this would happen. I can't stand these barefaced lies. I demand a trial by combat. If I lose, I will accept any punishment that comes. But if I win, Liam Paxley must die. May the benevolent God, Aru, bear witness to this sacred duel. His voice resonated like thunder. Baron Nathan and the others were stunned. They didn't expect that he would actually demand a duel. They were also believers of Aru, and they knew that a sacred duel was something that could never be rejected unless the challenger himself took back the challenge. Baron Nathan was planning to give his son a punishment, but he could never bring himself to kill his own son. My lord, why don't we talk this through? I believe we can still discuss this. Nathan muttered as he wiped off the sweat on his face. Vivian was also scared. Please take back your challenge, my lord. There is no need to hurt the alliance of our two households over something like this. Meanwhile, Liam was scared shitless. Alaric's eyes were akin to those of a predator's, sharp and terrifying. It made his legs feel so soft that he almost fell off his chair. Alaric glanced at the Baron and his wife. I'm sorry, but this is something that must be done. Your son hired a mercenary group to kill us. Do you know how many of my people were hurt because of his foolish stunts? If it wasn't for the friendship between our families, I would have already sent an assassin to kill him. The people behind Alaric were proud to see him standing up for them. Even his number one hater, Charles, felt that he was cool though he didn't want to admit it. Must you do this? Baron Nathan sighed. I have already thought it through, my lord. The sacred duel must proceed. Alaric remained firm in his decision. Baron Nathan took a glance at Liam and face-bombed in disappointment. On behalf of my son, I accept your challenge to a sacred duel. He sounded dispirited. And no, father. How could you accept the duel? Liam was shaking in fear. Mom, please say something. Vivian lowered her head and sobbed. She knew that there was nothing she could do at this point. Rejecting the sacred duel was sacrilegious to the teachings of Aru. If that happens, she would definitely lose the support of her collateral family, and they would even face the ostracism of Aru's believers. Then we will wait for a cleric from the church to officiate the sacred duel. During this period, I hope that Lord Nathan will keep an eye on Liam. Alaric cupped his fists at the Baron. Baron Nathan nodded with a gloomy face. House Paxley will never disobey the teachings of Aru. You can rest assured. We will send you a messenger once the cleric has arrived. In that case, we will wait for your call. Please excuse me. Alaric turned around and took a deep look at Liam before he walked away with his companions. Liam's panicked voice and the Baron's furious roar echoed from behind. "What a foolish young man," Charles muttered in a mocking tone while shaking his head. "Indeed. He betrayed his family's trust, and now he has to face the punishment of Aru." Alaric muttered with an expression that was full of hidden meanings. Just as they stepped out of the main mansion, a servant suddenly came running towards them. The man bowed to Alaric and said, "My lord, the Baron wants to invite you to stay in the estate while we wait for the cleric." Hearing this, Alaric shook his head. "I'm sorry, but I'm still furious about this incident, so I have to decline the offer." He didn't give the servant a chance to say another word as he commanded his men to leave. "Let's go." "Yes, my lord." As soon as they left House Paxley's estate, Alaric's group searched for a place to stay in the city. Luckily for them, there were a lot of vacant inns nearby, so it didn't take them long to find suitable accommodation. After taking care of the warriors' accommodation, Alaric rented a separate room for Ivana, which was just next to his room. "I need to prepare for the duel. Should I distribute my stat points now?" Alaric thought to himself. He now had 35 stat points, including the most recent he got after doing the exercises inside the cave. Chapter 66. Liam's Shameless Suggestion. Alaric's Silversword, Knight, EXP, 372/500. Potential, B. Traits, Horseback Riding, C. Swordsmanship, SSS. Close Combat, C. Archery, F. Hunting, E. Tracking, F. Sixth Sense, F. Strength, 100. Stamina, 34+. Agility, 43+. Vitality, 27+. Endurance, 42+.
Mana, 13.
Battle points, 2570. Stat points, 35. Requirements for next advancement, 500 EXP, 100 in all attributes, and 5,000 battle points. Alaric was confident to win the sacred duel because of his stat points and his unparalleled swordsmanship. What should I do with these stat points? Just as he was about to make his decision, a series of knocks on his door pulled him from his thoughts. Knock, knock, knock. Alaric raised an eyebrow as he closed the cyan screen. He then stood up and opened the door. "My lord, I apologize for the disturbance." It was Henry. The old man cast him a worried glance and asked, "Are you really sure about volunteering for the sacred duel?" Alaric was like a grandson to him, and he was worried that an accident might happen in the sacred duel. "I have already made my decision, Sir Henry. I understand that you are worried about me, but my decision will never change." Alaric responded with a calm look. The old man sighed and forced out a smile. "In that case, I hope that you make a thorough preparation. In a sacred duel, the use of mana is allowed, so you must be careful, my lord," he reminded. Alaric nodded with a grim look. He had almost forgotten this important detail. Unlike the unofficial spars that he had participated in before where using mana was against the rules, it was the exact opposite in a sacred duel. "Thank you for your reminder, Sir Henry." Alaric was grateful for the old man's words. If it weren't for him, he might have already distributed all of his stat points. "Please rest well, my lord. Just call me if you need anything." "All right." After the old man left, Alaric headed back to his room and opened the cyan screen. His mana was currently his weakest attribute with only 13 points. Excluding my strength, most of my attributes should be at the average level. My mana, on the other hand, is barely at the level of a knight. Mana was crucial in a battle between knights. He had always neglected his mana because of his powerful swordsmanship. But in this sacred duel, having a higher mana might be a deciding factor in how the battle would end. Without hesitation, Alaric added all of his stat points to his mana. Mana, 1348. At that moment, Alaric felt a surge of power rising within him. With this, I should be ready for the sacred duel. Inside the main mansion of House Paxley. "Father, you need to believe me. It really wasn't me." Liam kneeled in front of the Baron, his face covered in tears. "Husband, he is still our child. There should be something we can do to save him. Vivian begged as he grabbed the Baron's arm. I also don't want this to happen, but we can't reject a sacred duel. Baron Nathan muttered while rubbing his temples. He looked like he had aged a decade in just a few hours. At this moment, Liam suddenly thought about something. He lifted his head and suggested with an ugly smile, Father, why don't we send that person? Baron Nathan frowned. Who are you talking about? The man they call the Butcher, Liam responded. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. The Butcher was a nickname given to a heinous criminal who had caused a series of killings in Rivad. He was a deranged man addicted to killing, and it took the combined effort of multiple knights to subdue him. He was currently locked up in a cell, waiting for his public execution. Absurd. How could you make such a shameless suggestion? Have you no shame? Baron Nathan raised his hand and slapped Liam out of rage. Pa! My son! Are you all right? Vivian went to Liam's side and looked at his face with a tearful expression. She then glared at the Baron and shouted, How dare you hurt your son? Baron Nathan ignored her and kept his eyes on Liam. This is the last thing I will do for you as your father. Whether you live or die is up to Aru. He then turned his gaze to the elite knight standing behind him and uttered, Release the Butcher. He will represent us in the sacred duel. The expression of the elite knight hardened, but he still complied. Yes, my lord. Liam's face lit up with joy. Thank you, father. The Baron snorted and walked away with heavy strides. Later that night, Alaric went to take a look at Ivana's situation. Knock! Knock! He knocked on her door and said, It's me. Her response came a few seconds late. Wait, give me a minute to change. All right. Alaric bought her some winter dresses earlier since her clothes were already torn and tattered. A few minutes later, she finally opened the door. Come in. Ivana locked the door after Alaric stepped inside the room. He realized that the mud he had smeared on her was already gone. Now that she had cleaned up herself, a devastatingly beautiful face was revealed. Her long white hair was as white as snow and her cyan eyes sparkled with enchanting radiance. She was only wearing a dull winter dress meant for commoners, but it failed to hide her charm. How do you feel now? Alaric asked while trying to maintain his composure. I still feel a bit weak, but I should be fine after a few more days of rest, Ivana responded while breaking eye contact. I'm glad to hear that, but you should be careful. We can't let anyone see your face. Not even my subordinates. Alaric reminded with a stern look. I will be careful. The elf nodded. Here's the medicine paste and the medicinal extract. Alaric handed her the things he had brought from his room. Thank you. I'll take my leave first. I'm on the room to your left, so just knock on my door if you need anything. All right. Alaric didn't stay any longer and stepped out of her room. She is still cold, but maybe a little less colder. He shook his head with a bitter smile. Chapter 67. A casual conversation with Ivana. Alaric woke up before sunrise to complete his daily mission. It had already become a part of his routine, so it felt natural to him. At this moment he was doing his push-ups, his face looking incredibly relaxed. I wonder what will happen if I do twice the amount stated in the mission. Alaric's thoughts wandered while he was performing the exercises. Let's try. Maybe I can get double the rewards too. Who knows? He chuckled at his thoughts. And so, he did twice his daily mission because of this whimsical idea. 200 push-ups ballot box with check. 200 sit-ups ballot box with check. 200 pull-ups ballot box with check. 20 kilometers run ballot box with check. 200 vertical slashes ballot box with check. 200 diagonal slashes ballot box with check. 200 horizontal slashes ballot box with check. 200 stabs ballot box with check. After completing his exercises, he eagerly opened the cyan screen. You received 10 battle points. You received 1 EXP. You received 1 stat point. He sighed. All that effort for nothing. Well, at least I tried. He smiled bitterly when he saw that there were no changes in the rewards. After completing his daily mission, He headed back to the inn to change into a new set of winter clothes. He then went to the public dining hall downstairs to grab some food for himself and Ivana. By the time he arrived, he saw Aldrin and a few others gathered around a table, chatting about random matters. One of the warriors suddenly noticed him and stood up from his seat. "My lord!" Alaric signaled with his hand, telling them to stay in their seats. "Just guys can relax. I only came here to grab my breakfast. I already ordered for all of us, my lord, including the vagrant woman." Aldrin hesitated. "I see. Thank you." Alaric tapped his shoulder and smiled. "Anything for you, my lord." Because of his presence, the warriors didn't dare speak too loudly and their backs were straight like a sword. Luckily, the awkward atmosphere disappeared after their food was served. "You guys can eat without. I'll take my share upstairs." Alaric grabbed 2 portions of the food before he went upstairs. "Knock, knock, knock. It's me. I brought your breakfast." At that moment, he heard a series of footsteps from inside the room before the door was opened. Creak. He saw that she had already covered her face with a cloth so only her cyan eyes were visible. She had also draped a coat over her shoulders, covering her body from the neck down. "Come inside," she uttered while staring at the food boxes in his hand. "Please excuse my intrusion." Alaric nodded to her as he entered the room. "I don't know what kind of food you prefer, so I only brought what I believed you would like," he said as he put the food boxes on the coffee table next to her bed. "Anything is all right. I'm not picky when it comes to food. As long as it's edible, I eat almost anything." While saying this, she removed the cloth that covered her face. Alaric was once again stunned by her appearance. No matter how many times I see it, her beauty is still shocking. Ivana turned her head. "What's the matter?" She raised an eyebrow when she caught him staring at her face. Alaric cleared his throat and responded with an awkward chuckle. "I still can't believe that I'm speaking to an elf. Anyway, you should eat. I will eat in my room." He was afraid that he might make another blunder if he stayed in her room. However, before he could leave, Ivana shook her head and said, "You can stay here. Eating alone can be boring sometimes." Ivana's tone was flat so Alaric couldn't tell what she was thinking. Was she starting to warm up to him? Or was it truly for the sake of having someone to accompany her in her meal? Alaric wasn't sure. "All right, you can ask me anything if you want." He didn't decline her invitation since he also wanted to know more about elves. Ivana took her seat and pointed at the chair perpendicular to her. "Please." Alaric nodded as he took his seat. "Why are you helping me?" the elf asked without looking at him. She had been meaning to ask him about this, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. Now she felt that it was the right moment. Alaric was silent for a moment before he answered. "I'm also not sure. To be honest, I was hesitant to help you since I heard that elves are proud and arrogant creatures. Maybe it was just a whim." Ivana didn't say anything and took a small bite of the roasted chicken leg. Seeing that she was silent, Alaric also began eating his meal. "Whether it was a whim or not, your decision saved my life. I can't thank you enough." Her voice drifted into his ears. Alaric glanced at her and saw a slight change in her expression. Is it the angle or is she smiling right now? Alaric tilted his head to get a clearer look at her face, but Ivana suddenly lowered her head. "You don't need to thank me. Just this experience alone is enough payment for my efforts. Next time, I can brag to my friends that I had spoken with an elf." Alaric chuckled. "You humans are weird," Ivana muttered. "Ha ha ha. That's true." Their conversation became more natural and the slight aversion they had towards each other vanished in that instant. "By the way, do you still remember the people who had wounded you?" Alaric asked while keeping an eye on her expression. Hearing this, a flicker of anger flashed in her eyes. "I will never forget their faces," she replied in a cold voice. "I can help you look for them. I have a subordinate who is really good at painting. He might be able to draw the faces of those people if you can describe their features in detail." Alaric rubbed his chin. "There's no need. I will look for them myself once I gather my people." Ivana shook her head. "All right, Just let me know if you change your mind. Knock. 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 I'll go open it. Hide your face for a while, Alaric reminded Ivana. The elf nodded and wrapped a cloth on her head. After she had covered her face, Alaric went to open the door. My lord, the messenger is here. Chapter 68. Bishop Anton. The man who had knocked on the door was Aldrin. The messenger? Where is he? Alaric furrowed his eyebrows. He is still downstairs chatting with Sir Henry and the others, Aldrin replied. All right, tell everyone to get ready. We are leaving now. Yes, my lord. Aldrin bowed and left to deliver his message to the group. Meanwhile, Alaric closed the door and looked at Ivana. You should get ready as well. We will return to House Paxley's estate for the sacred duel. We can't let the cleric wait. I understand. The elf nodded her head. Let's chat again after this matter is over. He smiled lightly. I'll take my leave first. Just leave the food there. Someone will come to clean it up. After saying those words, he left to gather his stuff. Soon, everyone in the group gathered outside the inn. My lord, we should leave now, suggested the messenger, a middle-aged man with tan skin. Alaric nodded. He then made a hand signal and said, Let's go. Outside the main mansion of House Paxley, a temporary battle platform was set up for the sacred duel. At this moment, Baron Nathan was chatting with a kind-looking old man dressed in a white cassock. Your Excellency Anton, it's my greatest honor to see you in my humble home. Baron Nathan spoke cautiously. He was on edge because the person sent by the church wasn't an ordinary cleric, but a bishop. Usually, the church would only send a deacon or a priest to officiate a sacred duel. But for some unknown reason, they sent a bishop. Why did they send this person of all people? Baron Nathan was scared that they would be punished for sending a criminal as their fighter in a sacred duel. Don't be so tense, my lord. I only came here to officiate the sacred duel. The old man chuckled when he noticed the Baron's tensed face. Ha ha ha. I have embarrassed myself. Please forgive me, Your Excellency. Baron Nathan awkwardly laughed. Suddenly, the sound of chains being dragged on the floor echoed. Oh no! Baron Nathan quickly turned his head and saw something that made his heart sink. It was his good son, Liam, pulling a man who was tied in thick metal chains. What's going on here, Lord Nathan? The bishop immediately identified the man in chains. Actually, the Baron wiped off the sweat on his forehead while thinking of a good explanation. Are you perhaps sending that guy as your representative for the sacred duel? The bishop asked as he stared intently at the Baron. The old bishop's gaze was so intense that it made Nathan feel like something was gripping his heart. Why, Your Excellency? His words were cut short when the servant announced the arrival of the challenger. Lord Alaric of House Silversword has arrived. Everyone turned their gazes at the cobblestone pavement. Leading the group was a young man dressed in leather armor with a metal breastplate. He looked dashing, but what made him special was the dignified temperament he exuded. Alaric jumped off his horse and landed gracefully. The first one he noticed in the crowd was the old man dressed in a white cassock. Bishop Amari Anton. Why is he here? This old man was no ordinary person. He was one of the highest-ranking priests in the church. Rank 6 in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. Bishop Amari Anton. Alaric's expression abruptly turned serious. From what he could remember, the bishop was a 3-ringed beast soul master. This means that he had already strengthened his soul mark 3 times. Unlike knights who advance by breaking through their physical limits and expanding their mana, beast soul masters had to strengthen their soul mark to advance in a process called beast soul integration. This was done by absorbing the mana within the beast soul crystal through their soul marks. Once successful, they would inherit a trait unique to the specific beast soul crystal they had absorbed. Alaric glanced at the old man's wrist and noticed the 3 unique symbols on his soul marks. So he is already a 3-ringed beast soul master around this year. I wonder what kind of powers he inherited after undergoing 3 beast soul integrations. Alaric bowed to the old man and greeted him respectfully. Greetings, Your Excellency. I apologize for being tardy. It's fine. I just arrived here too. The bishop smiled gently and waved his hand. Alaric then cupped his fists at the Baron. Greetings, my lord. Nathan nodded at him with a forced smile. Since everyone is here, should we begin the ceremony? The Baron cautiously asked for the bishop's opinion. What do you think, Lord Alaric? Bishop Anton stroked his beard as he looked at the young knight. I will follow the Baron's arrangements. Alaric nodded. Hearing his response, Baron Nathan immediately gave a cue to his retainers. Before the sacred duel starts, a short ceremony would be held for the representatives. This was to give them a chance to offer their prayers to Aru. The bishop summoned the representatives from each side. Alaric was the first one to approach the old man and offer his prayers to Aru. Please hear my prayers, Aru. Alaric muttered as kneeled before the old man. The bishop calmly placed his hand on Alaric's head and prayed with his eyes closed. Undersir. Mission. Sacred duel. Difficulty easy. Defeat the man known as the Butcher, and prove your faith before the benevolent god Aru. Rewards 150 battle points, 30 EXP, 5 stat points. Undersir. Alaric opened his eyes. It was then that he saw his opponent for the sacred duel. It was a man who was over 9 feet tall, with a body covered in scars and bruises. He was a literal giant. With a glance, Alaric could already sense the formidable power he possessed. The bishop's eyes flashed with a glint when he saw this man walking towards them. The giant kneeled before the bishop and prayed in silence. Everyone watched the scene with bated breaths. Chapter 69. The Sacred Duel. Aru, I don't deserve to seek forgiveness, but I hope that you will listen to the words of this sinful man. I don't care if I die today, but please protect my daughter and grant her a happy life. The giant opened his eyes after praying to the benevolent god. You may rise, the bishop muttered. The giant stood up, causing the chains wrapped around his limbs to make a series of clanking sounds. Are both representatives for the sacred duel ready? The bishop eyed the two with a calm gaze. Alaric and the giant nodded. Please step into the battle platform. The sacred duel will begin shortly. With the announcement from the bishop, everyone watched as the two fighters walked onto the stage step by step. Will Lord Alaric be all right? Aldrin muttered with a hint of nervousness in his voice. Of course. Haven't you seen Lord Alaric's swordsmanship? Rigger responded with a gloomy look. He was also uncertain about how this duel would end. This might be a hard battle. That is no ordinary man. His mana is stable and his physique is akin to that of a beast. He should be close to the realm of elite knights. Warwick muttered with his eyebrows knitted closely together. The warriors of House Silversword were starting to get worried for their lord. They didn't expect that House Paxley would actually send a man of this caliber in the sacred duel. Meanwhile, Hershey, who was spectating together with her family, was praying to Aru. Oh, Aru! Please protect Lord Alaric. At this moment, the bishop jumped onto the stage and stood in between the representatives. The result of this sacred duel will determine the fate of Liam Paxley. Whatever happens, I hope that everyone will respect the outcome. The bishop gave a short speech before he announced the commencement of the duel. Begin! Alaric stared at the giant as he unsheathed his swords. That is the mark of a criminal branded on your body. I won't hesitate to kill you. Alaric muttered when he saw the brand on the giant's neck. This marking was given to the criminals on death row, so he was familiar with it. The giant didn't say anything and just stared deeply at him. He looked so young. He should be as old as my daughter. Seeing that his enemy was silent, Alaric no longer said anything. He immediately unleashed his mana and subsequently gathered them into his arms. As the powerful energy surged forth, he released a quick burst of sword strikes. Whoosh! 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 The giant narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect this young knight to summon such a powerful force. He is faster than me. I can't block all of his strikes. Knowing that he couldn't block everything, the giant used his halberd to protect his vital organs. Clang! Clang! Sword wounds appeared on his body as Alaric's slashes connected, but the giant didn't even flinch. His eyes remained serene, seemingly unbothered by the pain. Alaric frowned upon seeing this. I only managed to leave some shallow cuts. Suddenly, he saw a flash of light in front of his eyes which made him instinctively pull his head. Bang! What? Alaric glanced at the halberd that almost crushed him. He finally realized that the giant wasn't just foolishly receiving his strikes. He was actually preparing for that one big attack. If Alaric was just half a second late, his body would have been crushed by that halberd. There was a glimmer of surprise in the giant's eyes. He didn't expect the young knight to evade his halberd. It never failed him before. For the first time since he stepped into the battle platform, he finally spoke. You are the youngest knight I have met. I feel reluctant to take your life, but I must kill you to save my daughter. His voice was deep and sounded like a low rumble. Hearing this, Alaric raised his eyebrows. What is he saying? The giant didn't give him the time to comprehend his words and charged at him. His heavy steps caused the platform to shake, and upon gathering enough momentum, he swung his halberd. Alaric's face fell. My 100 points of strength is still weaker than this man. He thought that 100 points in strength was the absolute limit that a human could reach, but it seemed like each individual had different inborn physical attributes. This man's strength is probably over 150 points. It was just a rough guess based on the power he sensed behind that halberd. Alaric hurriedly bent his body to avoid the fatal blow. Whoosh! The violent air brought by the attack almost caused him to lose balance. After his attack missed, the giant raised his leg and released a kick. Whoosh! Alaric didn't expect him to be this nimble despite his size. I can't evade it in time. Alaric immediately raised his sword and slashed on the muscular leg, hoping that the giant would pull back. However, the latter seemed to be unafraid of his swords. Alaric's sword struck his leg, but it was unable to penetrate past his bones that had been strengthened with mana. The muscular leg crushed into Alaric's body, sending him flying across the other side of the platform. Pa! The sound of his bones cracking echoed, making everyone feel a chill in their hearts. My lord! Lord Alaric! The warriors of House Silversword panicked when they saw him get thrown like a rag doll. Some of them pulled out their weapons and were about to step onto the platform, but a cold voice stopped them in their tracks. Do you plan to break the sacred covenant? The warriors turned their gazes at Charles. Don't bring shame to House Silversword. This is a sacred duel. Whatever happens on the stage is Aru's will. Charles lashed out furiously. The warriors hesitated upon hearing his words. Stand back! The old elite knight, Henry, shouted in a trembling voice. Lord Alaric chose to fight in this sacred duel. We must respect his decision regardless of the outcome. The old man's voice choked with emotion as he watched the tiny figure on the battle platform. The warriors loosened their grip on their weapons and brought their hands together. Aru, please protect Lord Alaric. Seeing that they had finally calmed down, Charles turned his attention back to the duel. He had a gloomy look on the surface, but he was screaming with glee internally. Just die here, my dear nephew. Ha ha ha. Don't worry. I will take care of the household, and I will also take good care of that little servant of yours. Ha ha ha. Meanwhile, Hershey broke into tears. No! She rushed into the battle platform, but the warriors of House Paxley stopped her. My lady, please calm down. We will be punished if we break the sacred covenant. Hershey ignored their words and tried to break free from their grasp. Lord Alaric! She screamed. Suddenly, a furious Vivian approached and gave her a resounding slap. Pa! Are you crazy? Do you plan to destroy our family? Vivian shouted with a sharp, angry tone. Hershey grabbed her face while staring at the frail figure on the platform. Stop embarrassing us, Hershey, Vivian muttered with an exasperated expression. She then sent the warriors a knowing look as she uttered in a commanding tone. Keep an eye on her and make sure that she won't do anything foolish. Yes, my lady, the warriors responded. On top of the platform, Alaric spat a mouthful of blood. He could feel his innards contorting with pain. It looks like I broke a few ribs. His face was pale and full of sweat. If my endurance was a little lower, that attack would have ended me. Unlike the goblin chieftain whose attack patterns were predictable, this giant was clearly more skilled. Now, how can I win against this man? Alaric observed the giant with a serious look on his face. I have to survive first. At that moment, the giant's halberd struck once more. Alaric gritted his teeth and made a quick slide in between the giant's legs. He then brandished his swords. KSSHHHHKK! KSSHHHHKK! The giant tumbled after Alaric left deep cuts on his legs, but he quickly stabilized himself by stabbing his halberd firmly into the stone platform. Alaric took a deep breath. The cuts aren't deep enough to cut his tendons. He felt resistance when he slashed his swords, which means that the giant was able to gather mana into his legs to protect his tendons. I almost got him. I just need to focus on his legs. Once he loses balance, he won't be able to block my sword anymore. Thinking about this, Alaric wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips and rushed out. His body was screaming with pain, but he pushed himself to the limits. Bang! Bang! The giant swung his halberd. However, he was unable to land a direct hit. Bang! Bang! Upon getting closer, Alaric suddenly swooped down. The giant had already anticipated this. He took a step back and raised his left arm before releasing a downward punch. Bang!
Chapter 70, Inosangman.
He fell for it. Now is my chance. Alaric took an abrupt turn which caused the punch to miss him by a few inches. Bang! The giant's fist created a deep hole in the battle platform. After successfully evading, Alaric swung his swords. Whoosh! KKSSHHKK. The giant's muscular arm was cut off. It was a feint. He intentionally aimed for my legs, but his real target was my dominant arm. The giant was stunned. Alaric wanted to end the battle with another strike, but the giant managed to block his swords by using his left arm, which was wrapped in chains. Clang! Alaric was surprised by his quick reaction. A normal person would have collapsed or panicked after having their arm cut off, but the giant remained calm. At this moment, the giant suddenly pushed him off with a low grunt which sent Alaric into the air. To stabilize himself, Alaric spun in midair. As soon as he landed, he made a quick dash forward while moving from side to side, showing off his amazing footwork. I need to end this quickly. I think my broken ribs are poking my insides. The feeling made him uncomfortable, but he gritted his teeth and gathered half of his remaining mana to perform another sword move. It wasn't like the fancy sword techniques used by the nobles in the capital. It was just a plain downward slash that used his spinning motion to release a more powerful force. However, the spectators viewed it differently. It was a move so graceful that it filled their hearts with shock. They were utterly flabbergasted by his swordsmanship. The giant had no time to react, but he managed to gather mana into his left arm to deliver a strong blow. The moment Alaric's sword struck the giant's fist, the former felt a fierce resistance. If this was an ordinary sword, that might have worked, but unfortunately one of my swords is a bit special. Alaric imbued more mana into his arms, making his muscles bulge and his veins protrude. In that instant, his sword sliced through the giant's fist, splitting it in half before stabbing into the man's chest. The giant staggered, but there was no pain in his eyes, only regret. Alaric was familiar with this expression since it was something that he always saw whenever he looked at himself in the mirror. Why is he giving me that kind of look? Without mana to stop his bleeding, the giant fell to his knees as blood gushed out from his wounds. Alaric approached him, looking a bit bothered by the giant's gaze. "Do you have any last words?" he muttered while trying to remove the uneasy feeling rising within his chest. The giant raised his head and stared at him. "Am my daughter?" His deep voice drifted into Alaric's ears. He took my daughter, and used me as a scapegoat. I took the blame for all the sins he had committed for the sake of my daughter's safety. Please, save H-. Cough. The giant emitted a gurgling sound after coughing a mouthful of blood. Alaric frowned upon hearing his words. "What are you talking about?" The giant's face was pale and it looked like he was about to collapse at any moment. Liam, he killed all those women. It wasn't me. The giant's eyes dimmed after uttering those words. His body swayed to the side and fell with a heavy thud. Alaric immediately rushed to his side. Your daughter, I will find her, he whispered to the dying man. He sympathized with this giant. From the words he had spoken, he could tell that he must have been a victim of Liam's manipulation. The giant looked like he wanted to say something, but only incomprehensible words mixed with gurgling sounds came out of his mouth. Even so, Alaric seemed to have understood it. I understand. I will end your suffering. It was too late to save this man. He had already lost too much blood. The giant stared at the blue sky. I'm sorry, my beloved daughter. Your father is useless. With a complicated expression on his face, Alaric stabbed the man's heart. KKSSHHKK. The light in the giant's eyes faded. Undersir. Mission complete. You received 150 battle points, 30 EXP, 5 stat points. Undersir. The cyan screen notified him of his victory, but there was no joy in Alaric's eyes. Oh, Aru, did I do the right thing? The sacred duel ends with Alaric's victory, Bishop Anton announced. The warriors of House Silversword. If you want access to fast updates or the full novel in high-quality audio, contact me now and buy. I offer over 300 complete audiobooks from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, and more. No locked episodes, no subscriptions, just one-time payment via PayPal or Ko-fi. Message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out the full list of available novels on Discord. Start listening to your next favorite audiobook today.